Welcome back, everyone, to the next episode on Card Hedge. I am here with Elijah Browning. How are you
What's
doing
up?
today?
Good. How about you?
Doing well, doing well. I appreciate your time. Thank you for sitting down and chatting with me here for a little bit. So
Of
why don't you
course,
give
I'm
us,
happy to do it.
yeah, why don't you give us a brief little background about yourself?
For sure. So I'm an American Ninja Warrior. I'm on the show. This will be my season 14 is starting to film later this month. This will be my second time on American Ninja Warrior. As a rookie last year, I got ninth overall at about 400 athletes. And so I've been doing that since I was like 10 years old. I'm 17 now. So basically the majority of my life. And so I love that. And like through Ninja and everything, I basically met people in the card hobby, which was so cool, right? And like I always loved sports cards. I grew up collecting them, but I didn't really know there was like a huge market in them. I had no idea. And so one of the big guys that I met was Lou Papa, and he was like selling a lot of the high-end Tom Brady cards at the time. This was like 2 summers ago now. And I was like, I've always been a huge Tom Brady fan. And I was like, yo, you got to tell me more about that. And basically, the whole summer of 2019, he just started like mentoring me and teaching me the card market. And so I got into it back then and still did Ninja and still did cards and basically just kept moving from there.
Very cool. All right. So you said you got into it at 10?
Yeah, so Ninja Warrior, I'd always watched the show like as a kid. Like I grew up on
Right.
American Ninja Warrior, but I just didn't really know how to like get into it, right? Because it's
Yeah.
still like such a new sport. And so as a kid, I just kind of watched it, played around, climbed on some trees, whatever. And so when I was 9 years old, at a gymnastics gym that's like 20 minutes away from me, they started doing like Ninja Warrior classes, like,
Yeah.
kind of on a smaller scale. But for me, like, who wasn't into it yet, I was like, perfect, let's go sign up for one of those. And so I started doing the classes and I went up there like ranks and stuff. It was similar to like karate or taekwondo, the way
Okay.
they had their ranking system. And so I ended up getting to like the very top of their program. And I was like kind of stuck at that point, right? Like I was a lot better than when I started, but I was just like, I have nowhere to go from here. And so I ended up meeting some people who were like, hey, we'll start coaching you and then you can come compete like all across the country because there's competitions outside the show that just aren't aired on TV. And I
Okay.
was like, what? That is so cool. Like, I have to do this. That'll be awesome. And so this guy named Bobby Zavala, when I was 10 years old, kind of took me under his wing and started coaching me. He had a backyard course at the time. And so I started training out there with him. And then he kind of took me all across the country, competing at some of these leagues. And then I ended up doing like the world championships because for each league, there's like a finals every single year. And so I competed in the finals in all of them. I ended up in the summer of 2019, actually, ironically, I ended up winning one of the huge world championships. So it took a while to get there, but definitely I'm happy for the hard work that I put in. And now we're on American Ninja Warrior. So it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So the training, like when you first started training,
Mm-hmm.
is all of the training, it seems, right, is I don't know what the term would be, but I see like the videos that you have, and it's
Right.
it's it's like body weight in motion kind of
Yep.
exercise and working out. Is that the practice, if you will, and the exercise that you've done the whole time, or is there any sort of stationary exercise that you do as well, like the typical gym sort of stuff?
Right. That's actually a really good question for sure. And I think a lot of ninjas have a different approach in that. And when I was a little kid, like 10, 11, 12, my training was just like playing around on obstacles and, doing some ninja courses and stuff like that. As I've gotten older and I've been able to like put on muscle and become stronger, I've switched it more to where I have more days a week that are calisthenics and really low weight, high rep movements. Stuff that would like imitate movements you do on a Ninja Warrior course, except you're just getting stronger while doing them. And then like 2 days a week, I'll actually run through obstacles and Ninja Warrior courses. But the reason I do a ton of calisthenics is because like in Ninja Warrior, it's always changing. It's always evolving. Like it's always a different thing. And so you never really know before you go to a comp what they're going to throw at you. So it's not as much of like a repetitions thing anymore. It's more of like who has the strength and the technique to get through new stuff that they put you on. And so that's why I kind of shifted away from doing mainly obstacles, as opposed to like now I just get as strong as I can, build up as much endurance as I can.
Hans, on dance France, and we want to pump you up.
Especially for American Ninja Warrior, right? Because a lot of people don't know this. We don't get to try the course. We also don't even know the course till we literally get there on set that day. They give us a little demo. They show us how each obstacle works, and then they just start running people like straight up. And so like a lot of people don't realize that like we don't get to practice them. We don't know what we're getting on. And so you really just have to be like have enough obstacle like practice, be on enough obstacles to understand how they work, and then you have to be strong enough to be able to clear those courses. And I think a lot of ninjas that especially like grew up in Ninja Warrior are still just doing obstacles. And I think the people that are getting stronger while doing obstacles as well are going to be better long term because it's just better for the body.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But it
For
also makes
sure.
me think like, again, back to like this videos that I see you doing,
Right.
the workouts that you guys do to have that that strength and that endurance, it's like so it looks so different than like the typical workout that people would, you know, think about.
Right.
So what are some of the like more interesting exercises that you have that you do?
No, for sure. So definitely like when it comes to obstacle training, a lot of times when I'm training for American Ninja Warrior specifically, I'll just try to think of the most weird things I can possibly think of. Like things that I would like honestly probably never even see in a comp, whether that's like this obstacle is going to throw my body in a really weird way and then I'm going to have to correct my swing and swing to something different. Like literally I'm just trying to think of the weirdest stuff because when you train that way it makes the more straightforward obstacles way easier. It's like, well, I already know how to control my body and keep that under control. And so that's kind of what I do on obstacles. Now when it comes to like calisthenics and stuff, we can get to a lot of technical terms which I'm not going to get into, but I don't know if you've ever seen like what a dyno is. So it's basically you have a bar, right? You're hanging on a bar, and then you do an explosive pull up and catch a bar that's like 2 or 3 feet higher than the other bar. So it's like a really, really explosive, powerful movement that I think when I show a lot of people that, they're like, what in the world? You know, and you go up and down 5 times, and that's like 1 rep. And then I usually do 5 or 6 reps, and that's like usually like the start to one of my workouts.
Damn!
So that's just like one little component. And then there's a ton of other stuff, you know, like instead of doing sit-ups, what I do is I hang on a bar and then get my knees to my chest, and that's one. And so it's from the research I've done, it's better for the body. And then it also for me is more like Ninja Warrior because I'm always hanging, I'm always doing stuff like that. And so doing a sit-up on the ground doesn't really it's not like Ninja Warrior enough, right? So it's like it's getting your core strong, but it's not close enough to what I'm actually doing to like be as beneficial.
Right. Yeah. You're trying to replicate the same movement that
Right.
you're going to meet once you reach the course.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you do a lot of like running and or like swimming, like stuff like that?
Right. That's a good question. So actually in 6th grade, I started running cross country and track with the public school because I'm actually homeschooled, you know, because I travel like almost every weekend and stuff. But I started running track and cross country with the public school in 6th grade, and I've run all the way up until I'm a junior now. And I actually stopped running cross country last year just because there's like you have 3 different energy systems, and you use alactic and lactic for ninja, and running cross country is anaerobic. So it's a completely different energy system. And so when you train your anaerobic, but then I'm also trying to train my alactic and lactic, it ended up like fighting each other in a way. And so it like wasn't as beneficial. So the running I do more now is like more 400, 800 meter sprints as opposed to like long runs, if that makes sense. But I still do run, and then when I'm preparing for like Las Vegas in Nevada, which is like the finals for Ninja Warrior, I'll do a ton of like swimming because it's like at the end of some of the courses, like once in a while they'll have like a water obstacle where you're out of breath and you have to go underwater and like crank up doors and stuff like that so you can swim under them.
Right.
And so I'll like run a really tough, brutal course and like hop in a pool and like hold my breath for as long as I can and stuff like that. And swimming is just really good cardio as well. So I do that, but more like in preparation for the show, not as much like year round as I do running.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
What are some of the differences in those energy systems that you were just talking about?
Yeah. So as humans, we have 3 different energy systems. You have your alactic, your lactic, and your anaerobic. So your alactic is basically your 10-second threshold. That's what 100-meter sprinters are. That's what even football players, they use their alactic mainly. It's basically if I were to push against the wall as hard as I can push as hard as I possibly can for about 10 seconds, and then I start to fizzle out, right? So it's like that 100-meter sprint as fast as you can go for around 10 seconds. And then you go into your lactic energy system, which is the one, alactic and lactic, we mainly use for ninja. And so that takes from like 10 seconds all the way up to around 3 minutes. And so you're usually not on a course any longer than 3 minutes. So we really try to train our lactic energy system hard. But essentially, this is like what your 400, your 800-meter runners use, maybe your 200-meter swimmers, stuff like that. And so basically this energy system is more endurance based. And a lot of people don't know that like your alactic energy system doesn't actually require oxygen. So you don't even theoretically have to breathe in a 100-meter sprint, which a lot of people don't know.
Right.
And so your lactic energy system does require oxygen. And so that's like a lot of where like I'm trying to train my cardio is I'm trying to build up that lactic energy system and my lactic threshold and all sorts of stuff. And then you get into your anaerobic energy system, and that's, marathon runners. And that literally takes your 3 minutes to literally, if you were just going to walk across the United States, you would use your anaerobic energy system until you died, basically. Like that energy system theoretically never like peaks essentially, unless you die, basically. And so
Right.
that takes 3 minutes all the way up to infinity, basically.
Yeah. That's wild.
It
So,
is. It's crazy.
yeah. All right. Well, that was interesting.
Is this real life?
Yeah, this is real life.
Okay, now I have 2 fingers.
Good.
Let's switch gears a little bit here
For sure.
back into when you got introduced into cards. So
Yes.
obviously I know Lou. I also know like the kind of cards that he collects and whatnot. So
Right.
you can sit and look at his cards and you're like, man. But
What in the world?
yeah, what am I looking at? Do they actually has any company made any cards of like Ninja Warrior?
That's a great question. So, to my knowledge, like actual physical cards that like a company has produced, no. There's been like
Okay.
some guys that have kind of like taken some of our pictures off the show and kind of done them on their
Right.
own, right? But no, like Panini or Donruss or any of them, no, none of them have ever made Ninja Warrior cards, which I kind of understand because it's like it's kind of a very niche market, right?
Yeah.
And like at the end of the day, it is still a TV show, and so it's
Right.
like it's kind of hard to market that.
I mean, it is
But
growing though. Like when you,
right,
there is something to say when you start having sport specific gyms all around the country,
right.
it is starting to really grow.
No, for sure. And like I train 20 kids alone in my backyard actually. And so like it just grows crazy and like
Kids love it.
they do, and it's super
Yeah.
fun for like even families. Like I know people that their whole family does Ninja Warrior and like that's
Right.
what they do, right? They go to the ninja gym Fridays or whatever and they all do ninja together. And so
Yeah.
it's a super fun, uplifting community, which is what I love. And that at the same time we all get together on Saturdays and we all try to beat each other and all sorts of stuff. So it's a blast, honestly.
Yeah. That sounds like a lot of fun.
But yeah, as far as cards go, I know there's ninja NFTs. Actually, me and my family are starting to like
Oh,
make some,
really?
which is really cool, and I'm
That's
really
cool.
excited about that. But yeah, as far as like physical cards, there
Right,
isn't
right.
really any yet.
Cool. I'll have to find out more about the NFT stuff.
For sure, yeah.
As far as like physical cards, what's your favorite
Mhm.
sport to collect?
So personally, I'm a big football fan. I love basketball as well. So those are actually the only two. I stay away from like soccer and baseball and all them just because I don't really know those sports very well, right? And I come into like cards as like an investor, right? Like I'm only 17, but I want to do well with it. And so like me sticking to those two main sports, I can definitely like focus on them. And what's nice is like their seasons kind of like they overlap for some of it, but not all of it, right? So you can
Right.
follow each season pretty well. And so that's what I found works best for me. But at the end of the day, probably I enjoy football more. Right now, I have more basketball just because that's in season. But I love football.
Yeah, yeah, I probably fall in the same category, like mostly football, basketball. I don't mind
Yep.
baseball, but when it comes to baseball, it's just like very specific people.
Oh, I know.
Like I'm from the Boston area, so like Mookie Betts,
I
I
love
love
Boston.
Xander Bogaerts. I have a nice collection of his. Um,
That's awesome.
what are your teams?
Yeah. So, I was a huge Tom Brady fan. So whichever team he was on was obviously the team that I wanted to win. So if he was on the Patriots, I wanted them to win. And like I live in Tennessee, so people always called me a bandwagon, but I'd always been a Tom Brady fan since I started watching football. Because I had watched his crazy comebacks like the Super Bowl against Atlanta and stuff, and I'm like, this guy, for me being an athlete, is like so inspirational. Like
Right,
he's not gonna let his team lose, and if
right,
if they do lose, he's gonna take full responsibility and they're gonna work so much harder. And like next year, you better watch out, right? And so he's coming at it with a vengeance. And so he was someone growing up that I always looked up to, and I always loved watching him play. And now that he's retired, it's like, what in the world? What is football now, right? But other than that, like as far as teams, it's kind of just more like who has the hot player at the moment. Like I love watching Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen go at it, right? I'm
yeah,
not necessarily a Chiefs or Bills fan, but I just love watching those games. I loved watching Joe Burrow make that Super Bowl run. That was incredible. Because I was kind of like skeptical of Joe Burrow going into the season. I was looking at it like off season, like this is the time to buy. And I get to Joe Burrow and I'm like, nah, we'll wait a couple of years. Like he's not going to be able to do anything. Looking at the weapons around him and stuff, I was like, yeah, he has Jamar Chase, but that literally was it that I saw that was like a standout, right? And I was like, ain't no way Joe Burrow's doing anything this year, and he did. So it was pretty crazy, and props to him for sure. But yeah, it's more just like I love watching those close games and those awesome matchups. I think the reason I'm more like that and not rooting for like one specific team was because like I always loved watching Peyton Manning and Tom Brady go at it. Like
yeah,
that is still in my mind like the greatest like two legacy quarterbacks who just like I don't know if we'll see anything like that again. It was just so fun to watch.
yeah. No, football. Obviously, I'm a Pats fan, but it's just fun to
Yeah.
watch and see like. And there were so many good games this year in the playoffs leading
Oh
up to the
man.
Super Bowl, so it was just yeah, it just made for good teams, especially that Chiefs Bills game. That Chiefs Bills game was epic, but
That was the coolest thing you've ever seen, right? It's just like what in the world? How?
absolutely wild, absolutely wild.
Yeah.
Do you
Incredible.
so what kind of collecting are you more into? Are you more into like buying packs, or are you more into just buying individual cards of your
Right.
favorite players?
So personally, I hate buying like boxes and packs because like I always lose in them. Like the other day I joined a group break because like I'm close to one of the guys here that like has a shop and he's like, please just throw $85 in a break, whatever. And I'm like, sure, I'll do it to help you or whatever. And I came out with like $5 worth of cards. I was like, this is horrible, right?
Well, that was pointless.
Like I hate this. And so I've definitely like I started buying singles and that's what I enjoy doing. And that's what I've seemed to do a lot better on anyway. And so I definitely try to buy more just singles. And then if I buy boxes, it's more to just like hold them long term.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you buy graded cards as well, or do you send your cards in to get graded?
I actually, weirdly, and this sounds strange, I actually buy more graded stuff than I even ship in to get graded.
Yeah,
I either like buy it graded or I buy raw with the intention of more just like holding it raw. And if it's like really clean and like really awesome, I'll send it in to get graded. But I've probably only sent like, I don't know, probably less than 10 orders to SGC, and I've never gotten graded with PSA or Beckett. I've always just
yeah,
bought those graded cards,
right.
just because they're so stupid expensive, and it's like,
Yeah,
I don't know, it can kill your margins sometimes.
yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Oh
So
man. I'm in the same boat. Like I don't mind buying all three of the companies, but I only send cards to SGC just for the
yeah,
point you said, like the margin and not even the margin,
I
because
know.
most of the cards that I send in, honestly, I just like cards for me aren't something that I'm like trying to flip. If
Mhm.
ever like a good deal comes along and I'm like, yeah, you know what, why not? But for the most part, when I
Right.
send the card in, like I'm doing it to keep it for like the long term. So yeah, I've been going that route as well. What
For
so
sure.
talking about getting $5 out of the box, what's the biggest card you've gotten out of a pack
Um,
or a box?
oh, a pack or a box? Probably just some like rated rookie, honestly. Like
Yeah,
probably some like maybe like a Josh Allen rated rookie.
right.
That's probably the biggest card. I think that's like $100 card right now.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
mean, like I think my losses in pulling and ripping have like far outweighed the gains, but like I do it sometimes just for like fun, right? It's just
yeah,
fun to do.
yeah,
And then as far as like buying singles, I take for me personally, I actually like usually do it to flip. It's pretty funny. Like every card that I've told myself, like this is PC, I'm keeping this forever. I've ended up selling because someone would like offer me something on it. It's so funny. And
yeah,
so it's like I don't even have anything right now that I'm like, I would never sell this ever. Because every card I've ever done that with, I don't have it anymore. It's so funny. But
that's
I
hilarious.
love cards still, and I still buy cards with the intention of being like, yeah, I'm gonna hold this one and I'm gonna flip this one, and then next month I'll be like, oh, I don't have that card anymore. Cool.
Yeah. Do you hit any card shows?
I do. So I try to buy, to be honest with you, I try to buy mainly at card shows just because
Yeah,
the vendors there, they'll cut you such good deals, right?
yeah,
Like some days you'll buy at a card show and you'll flip it the next day for double your money. And it's like, what in the world? Like you can't do that in stocks or crypto or anything
right.
right now. And so I honestly, I do try to go to card shows, build relationships and stuff with people there because that's going to help long term. But then, I've done all right flipping off eBay as well. I've been buying a lot of Giannis stuff off eBay lately because I think his stuff is severely undervalued for what he's doing right now. And so I've just been hitting up some 99-cent auctions and actually done decent on those. And I'm just kind of holding his stuff right now because the Bucks are looking good this year, regardless of their record. I mean, can't talk. Giannis is just incredible, and like he has a great team around him, and I think they can make another good playoff run. I don't know if they can beat the Suns this year, but I think they'll definitely make it far in the playoffs.
Yeah, the NBA looks interesting. Um, the East, it should be interesting to see what happens
So
because
interesting.
the Nets look good, the Sixers look good. I'm a Celtics fan, and they look good, but I don't know.
Everyone looks good. It's crazy.
I don't trust the Celtics team in a 7-game series. Um,
I know.
yeah, it's tough. It's tough, but I mean Tatum's been doing well. Um, but it is interesting. Are you a LeBron guy?
So I do have some decent money invested in LeBron. Like I don't know if you've seen have you seen the rookie draft patches like that they have his
Um,
rookie year?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah, so like I have a funny story with that actually. So they have three different variants. They have like the white draft patch, the red draft patch, which is numbered to 99, and then they have the black one, which is numbered to 25. And so like a couple of years ago, I was in the middle of math class and I was watching the white one at auction, and it was like going for way less than I thought it was worth. And I'm like, well, I have to bid on this like right now. So in the middle of math class, I'm like bidding on it and stuff under the table, and I ended up winning it for like $400, which even then I felt like was undervalued. And now that card's like a $3,000 card, which is pretty
Yeah.
sweet. And I still have it because that's one that's like pretty cool. And I can see myself keeping that one. Again, if someone made me a crazy offer, I'd probably sell it.
Right.
But it's a cool story and it's funny.
No,
But
that's
I
a
actually have.
hilarious story, actually.
I know, yeah, and like I was like, yes, in the middle of class, and like everyone's
Yeah.
like, what? And I was like, oh, nothing. It was like it was so funny. I like couldn't contain myself because I like the next day a raw one sold for $500, and mine's
Okay,
graded
yeah.
an 8.5. And so I was like, it was crazy that I got it for so cheap. The auction just went low for some reason, but it was really cool. And so
Is
that's a
it
funny story.
BGS?
It was a
Yeah.
BGS 8.5, and that card is stupid hard to grade because of it's got foil on it basically.
Yeah.
And so I mean to grade that card is just near impossible, right?
That's a nice one to hold on to.
For sure. So I'm a
Yeah.
LeBron guy, and it's like an investment standpoint. No,
Okay.
I'm like it's funny for my generation, but I still think MJ's the GOAT,
Yeah.
And so I still love Michael Jordan as well. But yeah, I dig LeBron on the court for sure.
Yeah. It's tough to see, like, the Lakers is just so bad right now. It's pretty
So
bad.
bad.
Down by 8. Over,
Wow.
but ultimately another championship.
Steal by Drummond. And here is
It
Davis.
is.
Pretty
It's
wild.
crazy.
I mean,
to
he's
me.
playing well, but it's still like, yeah. Anyway,
It's weird. It's weird.
I'm a little interested. You mentioned something about the Ninja Warriors making some like NFTs.
Right.
Tell me a little more about that, because I'm into NFTs, so I'm kind of curious to hear more.
For sure. So yeah, it's actually me and my family are launching them. And so like we're obviously not using like American Ninja Warrior the name or whatever, but we're having like all the top ninjas, like we've done shots and all sorts of stuff. And so we're actually gonna launch an NFT line of ninjas. I think we're shooting for late March, early April is the
Cool.
launch date. And so those will be really cool. I'll definitely give you some details when they're launched. And that's kind of been like my parents' thing too. So I've kind of just been like, whatever you need me to do, I'll help you with. But like I kind of stay in my own kind of lane and they do their thing and stuff. So they definitely know a lot more about it than I do. But
So
it
your
should be exciting
parents-
and it should be fun.
Your parents got into NFTs and got you
They
into it?
did. So it's mainly my dad, right? So my dad got into cryptos. He got into like
Okay.
Cardano pretty heavily.
Yeah.
And so like it's funny though, because like me and my dad were both entrepreneurs. Like my dad's always worked for himself, stuff like that. But like when it comes to our businesses, we kind of just like keep that to ourselves, But it was funny because we kind of were like looking at Cardano as an investment at like the same time. So we kind of like came together and we mined it for a little while and stuff like that. But yeah, it was pretty funny. And so like talking to the guys about it, and then like NFTs started launching and stuff. And he's like, well, what if we did like a Ninja Warrior NFT? And I'm like, well, that sounds cool. Like I'd be down. And so my mom is like a huge people person. She just starts calling everyone up, like all the head ninjas. She's like, yo, when can you get to Tennessee to get photos taken? So it's all come together pretty quickly and it's pretty exciting. And we got some pretty awesome people working on it, but it should be cool.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely looking forward to that. Are you
For sure.
What blockchain are you guys using?
I'd have to ask. I believe we're using Cardano right now.
Okay,
Which
good.
is because Ethereum's fees are just crazy, right?
Yeah.
And so I believe we're using Cardano at the moment.
Cool.
Yeah.
There's one project on Cardano. I only own one project on Cardano, but it's my friend put it out. It's called Retro Kids.
Oh,
Yeah, so I'm familiar with it. That's cool. No, I'm definitely gonna have to stay up to date on that.
for sure. I'll
so
keep
what-
you posted.
Yeah, no, I need to. So while I've been sitting here, I see that post above your head. Is that a training beam?
It is. So I'll just take you around real quick. This is basically like what me and my grandpa built in my room. So we got a hangboard right here, which is all sorts of like crazy finger ledges and stuff that I do dead hangs on.
Yeah.
And then we got like another one of those right here. And then this beam across my wall just has like more cliffhanger ledges and stuff. And that's basically like, if it's raining outside, I'll just come in here and do some like grip work and stuff like that. So it's like real limited because it's in my bedroom. But yeah, that's what I do inside when it's like pouring down rain.
Okay. How long have you had? I think I've seen. I'm assuming some of the videos that you have are with the setup that you mentioned in the backyard.
Right.
How long have you had that?
So yeah, the setup in my backyard, anything that was like painted green and black, like that's my backyard. And so me and my grandpa started building that probably around 3 or 4 years ago, and it started just with like a salmon ladder, just one salmon ladder. We just started it nice and easy, and then we added a double part of that salmon ladder, and then we just built off of that. Then we built a warped wall and all sorts of stuff, and it just kept growing and growing and growing. And started this summer after my episode had aired and stuff. I was like, well, how can I make some extra income, like weekly income, that's like a little bit more consistent than cards, just because cards is all over the map, right? You'll have like crazy months, then you'll have months where you like barely sell anything. And so I was like, well, what if I just started coaching kids out of my backyard? And so it started with, well, actually, Lou Papa's son, Christian, I've been coaching him for like 2 years, but just him.
Very cool.
And so after that, I was like, well, I could totally do this. So then it just like word of mouth got out, and it just kept growing and growing. And like 1 month I'd have 3 kids. The next month I had 5 coming every week. The next month I had like 7 coming. And now I have 20 that come every single week, which is pretty crazy.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
It jumped up a notch.
It did, didn't it?
And it's super fun. I love it. And we get to use the course that me and my grandpa built. So super fun, and keeps it exciting for sure.
Absolutely. So you have 20 kids that all come and do like their own separate training sessions with you?
Yeah, exactly. So it's all like private lessons. Then I do some group lessons with some of them. But I'm driving down to Huntsville later today, and 7 of my kids are going to compete at a competition in Huntsville.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, they all compete as well, which is super cool. And they love it. And I'm like, this is awesome that it came full circle, like really quickly too, right? Like I'm only 17. So for it to do that so fast it's pretty awesome. And I'm definitely grateful for it, for sure.
Yeah, no, that's actually, yeah, man, being 17 and being there, and staying level-headed, it's impressive. That's definitely, stay on that path for sure.
For sure. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
I was gonna say, so this next season you're on, when is that? When is that? And what is the process that you'll go through going into the show?
For sure. So actually, qualifying films March 24th, which is like less than 2 weeks away. So that's the day I'll actually go to San Antonio and film qualifying. And then after that, I have to be real hush hush whether I'll like moved on or not, because they don't air it right away. But then like after that, it'll basically film through May. And then every round you keep moving on the longer it advances. So it films March through May. And then basically it should start airing around like end of May, early June. And then it's a summer show, so it'll go all summer. But yeah, so last year I ended up clearing qualifying, got to semifinals, which filmed in LA. I ended up falling on semifinals, but I still moved on to the national finals, which was awesome. And then I ended up clearing stage 1 out of 4. And then I fell at the very end of stage 2, and I got 9th out of around 400 people. So yeah, it was pretty awesome. Great first year. And then this year we're just training even harder. I learned a ton from last year, so I got to apply it this year. And it's crazy how fast it came back, right? Because you get done filming and you're like, awesome, that was great. Now I got a whole year to train. And then it's like the year is right here again. So it's funny, but it'll be cool. And I'm excited. And so we fly to San Antonio on the 22nd, and then we compete on the 24th. So it'll be good.
Nice. And do you have like a separate workout? Like, what is your workout build up? Let's say like a week going into that. And then, like you said, maybe like the 2 days that you're there prior to actually doing the obstacle course.
Yeah. So like up until a week before, you're just training as hard as you can. Like right now I'm like full speed ahead, getting as strong as I can, pushing as hard as I can, pushing my body to the limit. Then a week before I actually compete, I actually go through what's called like a tampering phase, or like a decreasing phase almost. And that's where you literally just like your training's been building, and then you just kind of go like this a little bit. You don't necessarily go like down you just basically take all your reps and decrease them. You don't go as hard. You maybe more technique train as opposed to building strength. And essentially what that does is if you train something really hard the week before a comp, right around that week mark, like if it's any time in between that, it won't be as strong for your competition. Your body needs like around a full week to fully recover, right? And so you go through like a tampering phase, a decreasing phase where it's just like that week leading up to it. You're more just trying to make sure everything's feeling good, everything's working right. And so the 22nd and the 23rd will be a rest day for me. Like both those days, I won't do anything. I'll basically just be eating a lot of food, trying to get as much carbs and protein as I can in my system. And then the 24th, usually after 2 rest days, you feel incredible and you're just ready to go. And so that's what I did last year. It ended up working really well. So we're rolling with it again this year.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, it'll be good.
Do you stay in touch with like the contestants that you meet and whatnot? Do you guys all kind of, I mean, I know you said like the your mom got them involved with the project,
Right.
but do you guys like stay in touch? And how you mentioned you go around the country traveling to different gyms, will you like meet up and do like sessions together and whatnot?
For sure. So yeah, a lot of the kids that and adults even for that matter, that I'm on the show with, I've known for years now, right? And so like the kid, his name's Caden Lebsack. He ended up getting Last Ninja Standing last year, which like there's like winning the show and then there's Last Ninja Standing. So it's like you can get first and like still not win, and that's what happened last year. Caden got first, but he didn't clear all 4 stages. But me and him have been friends since we were like 12 years old, and he lives in Colorado. And so like me and him have like always been like, he'll fly to Tennessee and train and I'll fly to Colorado to train. And so I'm usually out in Colorado like 3 or 4 times a year to hang out with him and then also to like push myself and to train hard and stuff. So yeah, a ton of the people that I'm on set with and that we're like doing American Ninja Warrior together with, I'm like really close to, and like we're really, really good friends, even though we live in opposite states or like really far across the country. But I think that's a really cool dynamic as well. Like I have a ton of friends in Tennessee, and then I have a ton of friends that I get to see like once every like month or once every couple months, and that's really fun as well because like while we're together, it's like so much fun. You know, it's like we know each other so well. And like going through American Ninja Warrior, it's like it's crazy, right? Like you're on TV with millions of people watching. You're on set. It's all intimidating. It's all really scary in a way.
Right.
And so to like go through something like that with your friends is like you're so much closer after it, you know, because
Yeah,
you've been
for
going through
sure.
something so crazy. And so it's like a different level of friendship that I can't really even explain. And so I think that's really cool and really important, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So before we wrap it up and end it, a few
Yeah.
quick questions about the show itself. What's been your favorite, I guess, just part of participating on the show, or
Right.
maybe a favorite moment?
For sure. I mean, definitely favorite moment is like the moment I hit my very first buzzer. I mean, you never get that first course run back, right? And so my very first course run ever, I ended up clearing. And I was only one of 5 people to clear that first course the first night. And so that was like the coolest thing ever, right? It was like I've been training and been dreaming about this moment since I was like 5 years old. I've been training for it for about 6 years. And it was like hitting that buzzer. It was just so crazy, right? It's just everything that I've been working towards. And first run out ended up doing that. And so it was just, that was the coolest moment. And I'll never forget that moment because it was just so amazing and so cool. Like I can't even describe it, right? It's just one of those like out of body experiences where you're just like, what in the world just happened, you know?
Yeah.
And that was so cool. And just being on set, to be honest, is really fun. You're hanging out with all your friends. You know, you got crafty and all sorts of stuff like that, where you can just go get snacks, and all the crew members usually treat you pretty well because you're like,
Right.
you're the talent, quote unquote, they like to call it, right? And so it's pretty fun, just being around it, and it's also really intimidating and really nerve wracking, but
Yeah.
that's another part of it that I really enjoy.
Yeah. How has that part helped you to grow?
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, like just with everything that happened last year, like I've I feel like I've grown and matured and really become just a better person like after filming last year, which I never really thought I'd say. I think a lot of people actually, like some of my mom's friends, thought that it would like get to my head, right? But like I'm on TV, it was like something so cool, right? And it would just get to my head. And I think it actually did like the opposite effect. I think it made me appreciate everything that I've done and everything that like everyone else has done for me so much more. And it was like it really just brought out everything that was incredible and awesome, and it really just made me a better person all the way around. And so when it came to like coming back and then I'm still running my businesses and all sorts of stuff, it gave me a different like perspective on it. And I think like ever since then I've been a way better businessman and a way better friend and a way better family member and all sorts of stuff. So honestly, nothing but positive to say about the whole American Ninja Warrior experience.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, that's great. And it definitely helps
Thank you.
helps you with like the growth, right? And especially
For
like
sure.
you, with your life basically being like working out, you
Right.
understand how like growth is what is going to help you continue to move on. So with that being said, what's been the toughest obstacle that you faced
Right.
while there? You know why? Because
Um,
it's like you always hear the people, you'll watch the show and you'll be like, oh man, you couldn't just hold on, or oh, I could have
right.
done that, right? And it's like, come
Yeah,
on, no, you couldn't have.
for sure. Yeah, that is a great point because everyone does say that, right? It's like, why
Yeah,
couldn't you just hang on?
right.
So I think it was funny, my stage 2 run, no one had cleared by the time I ran, obviously. And so I was like, I really want to clear stage 2. And actually only 4 people ended up clearing that stage entirely, which is crazy. And so I ran and I fell on the very last grab of the entire course.
Oh,
Very last grab. The buzzer is like 3 feet in front of me. And I think that was not even necessarily the toughest obstacle because I think it was just where that obstacle was positioned. It was very last. So it became really hard because you're tired.
right.
I don't necessarily think it was the obstacle per se. But it was literally that I gave it like everything I possibly had, and it still was just like barely not enough. There it was like once I hit the water, I was upset, but at the same time, I was like super proud of myself, getting out there and putting up a solid run for sure on my rookie year and like a solid season as well. But at the same time, it's like when I went home, I like dreamed about it for months. I mean, months and months and months, right? So it filmed mid-May, and I probably didn't stop thinking about it every night before I went to bed till like September, October. Like I'm
Yeah,
talking like crazy, right? And so I think like over time that was probably the toughest obstacle. Because in the moment it didn't hurt as bad, but I think over time it was like, dang it, like it was so close and it was right there. And so I think one thing that helped me get over it is just like it is what it is, right? It's in the past. You can't change it, but you can use it to fuel you and push yourself in the future. And so I'm grateful for that experience, honestly, and I'm grateful it happened early on. And so, it's been a solid like foundation to build upon. So
yeah,
it's been good all in all. But I'd say that's probably the hardest, like mental and physical obstacle.
yeah. That that's a that's it's great how you put that for sure. How because I think that happens a lot more than people realize with
Right.
athletes. It's like think of like again back to that Chiefs and Bills game. Like think about how many games are out there that close where there's
Yeah.
like that there's a moment or two that just eats somebody alive, right?
Oh yeah.
And being able to overcome that and come back stronger and accomplish it the next time, it says a lot about that athlete, right?
For
So
sure.
it's good that you see that and that's the way that you approach it again at 17. It definitely shows like maturity. So
Thank you.
going into the future, what's your plan here with like Ninja Warrior? Just continue like every season trying to keep going and grow out like the training. Do you see yourself having like your
Right.
own gym sometime?
So it's very interesting. My parents and me tried to open a ninja gym like 3 or 4 years ago. We probably started trying to open one probably when I was around 12, so 5 years ago. And then that kind of like lasted until I was like 15. We tried to find a space, tried to find all sorts of stuff. And we actually like got so close to where we were like signing the lease, and then they like changed the lease agreement on us. So we ended up backing out of that one. So we tried for a long time, and it really just like wasn't what God had planned for us. And so at the end of the day, like it wasn't really what we were supposed to do at that time, which I totally understood. It kind of sucked being like a 12-year-old, 14-year-old kid. It was like, we're gonna get a ninja gym. I'm gonna be so much better and all sorts of stuff. And then it didn't end up happening. But at the same time, it's like, all right, that wasn't the plan right then. But then I've also looked at it now, and I'm friends with like Caden's parents own a ninja gym. And so like I've been able to look into their business financials and all sorts of stuff because I'm a businessman. And I realized that like right now, because Ninja is still growing, Ninja gyms really aren't making much money. Like it's not a great way to like make a ton of money, right? No one's getting rich opening a Ninja gym right now. And so I kind of look back on it and I was like, all right, so like that's okay that it didn't end up happening, because definitely would have been a time that like if it didn't end up working out, it wouldn't have been a good situation, right? And so I definitely see how like it was okay that it didn't end up happening. And yeah, so I'm honestly right now totally content with what I'm doing in the backyard. As far as me competing on Ninja Warrior, I'm pretty much going to compete until either I'm just getting murdered out there or like, you know, my body just says like, hey, no more ninja, you know, because it is hard on the body. It's hard on the
I can
shoulders. It's hard on
imagine.
everything. So you know, right now I'm a huge future looker, so I'm always thinking like to the future and like what I want to be and stuff. So right now, Ninja Warrior, I'm gonna stay with that. I'm gonna continue to run all my businesses, try to build those up, and just keep rolling with it right now. And then if Ninja Warrior ends up not happening in the future, you know, whether that's a couple years from now or 20 years from now, you know, then we'll just pivot and go into something else. You know, maybe some climbing or some running or something like that.
Love that. I love the
For
outlook
sure.
that you'll just pivot and go somewhere else. That's good stuff.
Thank you. For
So
sure. It's like,
yeah, no,
go
go,
ahead.
go.
No, it's like you just can't it's like if the card market like ended tomorrow, right? Because it's happened before. Like in the 80s and 90s, they overprinted stuff, and so the reseller market was pretty much annihilated. And so like if cards end up like not working out, like I'll just pivot to something else. Like maybe I'll start selling cars and stuff like that. And so I think that's like a piece of advice that I try to tell all my kids and stuff. Like if something doesn't work out, it sucks, and it like really truly does, because I've been there. But you just have to like pivot and go somewhere else and like take your talent somewhere. It's not like those leave your brain, right? So if you know how to flip cards, you probably know how to flip real estate. You probably know how to flip cars. It's the
Mhm.
same exact thing, just with different objects. And so I think it's the same thing with sports, or literally whatever you're doing in life. It's you just have to pivot when things don't go your way. Unfortunately, it's just the way kind of life works. And if you can just stay ahead of the game, that's, you know, that's kind of my mindset with it.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Well said. Way to end it. But before we
Thank
do
you.
end it, where could people best, follow along with
Right.
you or reach out to you? Where would those platforms be?
Yeah, so I have Instagram for my personal. It's Elijah the Boss Ninja, and I'm also Elijah the Boss Ninja on YouTube. I post on YouTube and Instagram almost every single day, and you're welcome to shoot me a DM, and hopefully I see it and I can respond to it. I'm pretty bad with DM requests, but I try to stay on top of it. And then also I have Boss Sports Cards on Instagram, and so those are like the three platforms that I mainly use: is Boss Sports Cards, both Elijah the Boss Ninjas, YouTube and Instagram.
Very cool. And do you have a website as well?
I have a website for my merch. So this is actually like one of my designs. It's ElijahTheBossNinja.com.
Very
So
cool.
super
I'll make
simple.
sure that I link all of those down in the description.
Thank you
But
so
hey, I
much.
want to thank you for your time. This was
Of
fun. It was
course.
cool. Got to switch it up a little bit, not be so card heavy and kind of
Right.
just, free flow with it a bit. So it was
For
a
sure.
nice way to switch it up for me. Absolutely.
Sweet.
And
Thank
I
you so much for
appreciate it,
having
man.
me.
Yes,
Of
absolutely.
course.
Absolutely. And we'll be rooting for you. I'll definitely be watching, seeing how
Thank you so
you
much.
perform out there, man.
I appreciate it. It'll be fun and exciting for sure. So thank you.
Absolutely. And thank everybody for stopping by and watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.